that's really worried me this year is how people might be affected by not being able to touch each other. For Amber and I, for example, our relationship is very physical, involving I stroke her and she taps me and all this kind of thing. So not even just thinking about somebody in my situation, like with Amber, where she's living away from home and I'm not allowed to physically touch her. In the beginning, we had quite a novel situation where, it was a bit like, okay, you can't go near people. So some of those awkward hugs are gone, which is kind of good. There's no, it's not like that kind of situation where you're trying to gauge, is this person a hug, a kiss, or...
Yeah, are they a hugger or not? I can relate, Rachel.
But the serious issue has emerged of actually, like, for example, one time when it was my dad's birthday and we were in a brief reprieve from being locked down, we went and surprised him on his birthday in Oxford. There was a moment of a thrill where you would normally go running up and put your arms around someone and squeeze and everything. That's your sort of big dopamine hit, of happiness. That didn't happen. It was just like, oh, hello, there you are, 50 meters away. Come in,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just worry about the long-term effect on people. Surely being stroked affectionately by another human is essential to your well-being. So can you reflect on this as a little bit and tell me, if there's anything we can do to mitigate that problem without being able to touch someone?
And I think, Rachel, what you're talking about is, again, us at a human level, in terms of, and how in our closest relationships, but in all relationships, the importance of both, we have our verbal interactions and communication, but the importance of non-verbal communication and interaction. I think then when we think about our young people with Rett syndrome, I suppose the additional factor for them as well is that they have very specific, in the context of their condition and other needs, they have very, very specific sensory profiles as well. So you've got the bigger issues around the change between sort of the hugging, the physical contact, the stroking, all of those things that our children and young people are used to in terms of within their individual relationships, but also their individual sensory profiles as well. And I think you're absolutely right to flag it. I think there are consequences of those things, everyone, all of us having to do those things differently as a result of COVID. I think what I would probably say is that we probably, just as a general point, we'd expect those types of changes to potentially increase anxiety. Because it's a change, it's different, and it's things that usually would have soothed and comforted us that we're not able to do now. So I'd say as a general point, that's what I'd expect. But having said that, I think moving forward, what we're going to have to do collectively, and it's the experts in terms of COVID first, is that COVID isn't going anywhere at the moment either. So, one thing is actually us having this discussion within the first month of COVID. But we're now at the point where we're having these discussions month 8, month 9, and we're talking about the next 6 months, etc. So absolutely, we have to continue to follow the guidance. We have to keep our children and young people and families as safe as possible in terms of COVID risk. But I think alongside that, and what organizations and professionals are already starting to do, is think about some of the psychological consequences. And do we need to further modify and adapt to try and mitigate or reduce some of the additional anxiety and difficulties that are being generated as a result of us having to do these things differently?